90 of the world leaders have been educated abroad. And to be more exact, 44 of the current head of states have been educated in the US. AI is not going to replace universities, as simple as that. Students have, through the years, increased their earning by 75% before and after studying abroad.
Why in today's world there is a narrative for hyper-nationalism?
Studying abroad is a huge opportunity as well because it brings you things that you will not get at home. The US unemployment rate is below 5%. Many companies cannot fill vacancies, and international students do not take jobs from Americans.
No international university in any part of the world can survive without international students. Hey everyone, how are you doing? Welcome back to yet another episode of The Living Pod by Saurabh. As I always say, thank you so much, and I've been very, very grateful for all your time, efforts, your comments, your feedback, and even your trolling. Because this is what it help us improve. This is what we were looking for, real feedback. As we are doing this podcast with three themes: live, learn, achieve, and stay happy. And as we always say, if you live well, if you learn, you will achieve. And once you achieve, you will stay happy. Right? So on that note, today's guest is, very, I would say I'm also meeting for the first time, right? Interacted with couple of times over video calls. He is coming all the way from Washington, D.C., US. He is from ethnicity, which is from Togo, which I don't know. I've never been there, so I would love to learn more about Togo and his connection with Guinea and US and Africa. So a very diverse ethnical person we are hosting today. And he is a global head of business development for a company called mPOWER. So we'll understand what mPOWER is, what they do, how they do it, and what Clément is up to at mPOWER and in his career and life. Welcome on the podcast called Living Pod. How are you, Clément?
Saurabh, I'm very well. Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here. As you've spoken, we've been speaking for some time already, and it's great to be here at University Living and address your audience in the podcast. I look forward to a great discussion, talk about international students, what they bring to the world, and what the world brings to them as well.
So why don't you tell more about yourself first? Are you an international student? Or were you an international
As
student?
a matter of fact, an international student. So actually born and grew up in France. You talked about my origins. So my dad actually born in Ghana in West Africa. He grew up in Togo, a neighboring country. So both of them are former British and French colonies. But I have really grown up in France. And I'm among those who has always been very curious. I always wanted to discover the world. I wanted to understand, develop myself, interact with different culture. And I went to study both for my undergraduate and then my postgraduate abroad. I had my undergraduate at University of Leeds in the UK, and I've done my postgraduate at INSEAD, partly in Singapore. So to me, working and interacting with the international students is very close to my heart. I feel very fulfilled and also very excited about helping other international students to achieve what I have achieved and many others through international studies have achieved both in the personal life but also professional life.
Tell me more about why you feel that a curious soul need to study abroad and can't fulfill their curiosity within their own country or in their own city.
I love this question. I think growth is never easy. I think if you want to develop, you have to challenge yourself. And yourself, you studied in the UK, it's not easy. And I think that challenging yourself is a step for growth. And to me, again, learning a new language, interacting with people from all over the world is sometimes not necessarily easy, but it's a key contributor of growth. And really, this is what we're talking about. What do you want in your life? And do you want to develop? Do you want to learn? Do you want to experience new things? And do you want to grow as a person? And to me, this is why really international studies is a key stepping stone to grow as a person. It's not necessary. So many people have been very successful in home country without traveling, but without a doubt, going abroad and staying abroad or coming back home is an experience that really contributes to personal growth.
No, I totally agree. But when I sit on this chair, I also represent audience. Which question, why to study abroad? You have a vested interest. You represent mPOWER, who into international finance. I am represent university who make my bread and butter by helping student book their accommodation and have a safe, secure accommodation. Right. So for us, we are biased toward this. That's a different matter that we are a part of this ecosystem, right? I went to UK, I didn't get my housing, I got into this. Similarly, as you mentioned, you have born in Paris, you have ethnicity or native from Ghana, and then I guess I remember at the back end you were saying that you have traveled 20 years into the industry and travel across the nations. So we have a vested interest, and we have the journey, and we will definitely, uh, I would say, vouch international education. But why in today's world there is a narrative for hyper nationalism? Everyone wants to be US first, India first. You know, 5 years before it was word is oyster. Boundaries have blurred. While you and me talking, there's another war or another tension happening in one some part of the world, right? Where this all coming from? Why all of a sudden, like last 3 4 years, things have becoming more questionable when it comes to internationalization of education, when it comes to their individual personal nationalism objective versus word is one big oyster, word is one big family, mobility been around for last 10,000 years, and I believe mobility be around for another 10,000 years, because that's how the evolution happens. But what's wrong?
So I think it's a great question. And I'll say two things. First of all, the world has been made of cycles. There were always ups and downs. And you've mentioned that it seems like there's a bit more protectionism recently. That might be true. But again, these things come and go. And during COVID, as an example, the world became closed on itself. And it reopened like never. 2023 was a year of growth. Everybody wanted to go to new places, and exchanges internationally increased significantly. We might or might not be in a period where there's a little bit less of that. But I'll give you a few points why I think it is still and will remain, as you mentioned, very important and key part of the international development in the world to interact with others is a very simple statistic. Out of the about 200 countries globally, 90 of the world leaders have been educated abroad. And to be more exact, 44 of the current head of states have been educated in the US. So it is really.
But then why they are they got that opportunity, but why now they are not very open, with international students, especially from emerging like India or Africa or South Asia or Southeast Asia?
I think that's.
Sorry, I interrupted your thought.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
because this is unreal, this is real, this is unscripted. So there are no scripts. So allow me to bother you and interrupt you like this. But yeah, back to your question. 90 of world leaders are head of states are study abroad. 44 are current leaders who have studied abroad, but still
In the US, right?
we are in the era wherein people. I'm questioning, why should I send my daughter to US or UK, and why can't she study here, or even why she should go to school? There is YouTube, there is AI, there is everything. Anyone who can want to study or learn, they can do it online. We'll come to that segment later. Back to your
I love
point.
your question, by the way, and
Yeah.
allow me to touch upon that.
Yeah.
Harvard has, as an example, have been here for 150 years, and I think it will be here for another 150 years. You heard all the very dramatic events happening recently, specifically with Harvard.
Yeah.
But Harvard
Yeah.
is going to be okay. Let me
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah.
You talked about AI, we talk about a lot of things that we can learn online, and I do think that everybody in their right mind now should leverage on that, on AI. If you're not learning to use AI, you'll be behind. There's no doubt. But that's not a substitute to education. And let me tell you one thing. About 25, 30 years, internet came through. There was no internet before.
Yeah.
And people thought, my God, the internet, we don't need schools anymore. We don't need anything if you're not with internet. Internet is going to steal our jobs.
Yeah.
And what happened? People learned to use internet.
Yeah.
And we extracted wealth from this development.
Yeah. And then new roles and jobs came in. Back to you.
That new roles and jobs, exactly. And the same thing will happen with AI.
Yeah.
People will learn to use AI. They will become more productive, more efficient.
Yeah.
It will be an era of growth again.
Yeah.
AI is not going to replace universities.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. But it is going
I'll
to be a
question that,
problem.
but continue.
Yeah, it's going to be an element of education. There will be a lot of changes in education that have happened and will continue to happen. Teachers, professors are going to use more and more AI. They're going to be more versed on how they can use AI to help the student. The student will use AI to be smarter and better, not just to cheat into exams, but just to learn and to be a much more efficient, productive, and enhance the learning. So I don't think it's a threat. I think it's a huge opportunity. I think, to your point again, why studying abroad, it's a choice. There are lots of great local universities. People can be very successful studying locally. And studying abroad is a huge opportunity as well because it brings you things that you will not get at home. Some learning and challenges that you don't get from studying with the people in your neighborhood. If you go and study with a guy from the other side of the world, speak a different language, who've been growing, have different upbringing, you learn how to interact. You learn to face some challenges and interactions that you will learn necessarily the same way if you were studying locally. No, let me step back as well. I know India is a very rich cultural country. I know that someone in the north, someone in the south already experienced a lot of diversity. But there's even more when you go abroad. You go to Australia, to the UK, to the US, and you do really extract a lot from the experience.
Totally with you. You want to complete a thought about 44 current leaders?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I was saying, 90 current leaders have been studying abroad, whether it is in all these places I have mentioned. Specifically, 44 current head of states, whether it's president, ministers, prime ministers, have been US educated. Why is that? US might feel like it's not welcoming international students. I think it's a stigma. I don't think it is correct. I think that the different policies are still very much welcoming international students. It's maybe a little bit more challenging, but if students want to go abroad in the US and be successful there, there's still room for it. And they will still be supported and be successful in the US. I mentioned 44 head of states were former international students in the US because, as a matter of fact, there are about 3,000 higher education institutions in the US, and currently about 80% of the world's best academic institutions are based in the US. There are a lot of open rising in Europe, in Germany, France. I'm from France. UK, Australia, but the core of research and academic excellence still is in the US. And to me, I think, again, everybody can be successful in going different places. US stay and remain a wonderful destination for people to excel, to learn personally and academically.
It seems, my audience is very smart. They are
I have no doubt. If they listen to your podcast, they
No,
can only be very smart.
Thank you so much, but they are smarter than I am getting smarter. So there are kids who are as young as 14, and there are parents who are probably as old as 60. They are investors, leaders, stakeholders. It seems when I'm hearing you, if probably I'm on the other side of the screen, it seems that because you have an mPOWER who do education in US and North America, that's why you're talking all the good thing about US. But the fact are, there are around 3,000 or probably 4,000 institutions and everything, and out of which 80% are in the top ranking. That's facts, right? But then still, if I want to question, because there is a anti like or a negative or anti-US sentiments because of some reason which probably if I'm also questioning that. How can you question a institution like Harvard, and say that you can't get Indian students or international students on your campus? How can you question the financing for research and innovations and scholarships or to the international students? If someone is questioning these things, it's very natural and bound to think probably international students or Indian students or African students are not welcome in a land of innovation, what they used to call. And there's, I still believe, US. But why I don't feel that because you are in mPOWER, because you do US education, financing, so for you it's obvious and natural to talk about all the good thing about US education system.
Great.
Sorry for putting on a spot.
No, I love it. I think it's a great question. And let me say one thing. I am an international student. I have not myself studied in the US. So, I studied in the UK, which was wonderful. Studied in
Where did you
Singapore.
study in UK?
Leeds University.
Oh, which year was this?
It was some time ago.
We're not getting into your age. It's okay.
I'll tell you.
Anyways, we'll put your Wikipedia age
I
link.
will tell you, people will find. So I graduated in 2003
So you've been working for 20 years.
Right.
So,
20 years. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so again, studying in Leeds, not in the US. I've done okay for myself. I also took my postgraduate partly in Singapore. So US is not the only option. I think I've been very happy with my journey. And I know people such as yourself who've been extremely successful and happy with the journey in other places. US, and let me say one thing, it's not only the US. I think I'm really speaking on behalf of all international opportunities for education. You mentioned, I think, a couple of times the challenges with the US. And, those are momentous. Nobody is going to study in the US for the next 2 or 3 years. It's a lifetime decision, and it's a very important decision. And I am not here to tell anybody, go to the US, that's the place you should be doing. There are a lot of opportunities across the world, and people should look at what's best for them. So mPOWER financing has been started in 2014 by 2 international students. And really the co-founder and current CEO, Emmanuel Smadja, was himself an international student. He was studying engineering in Virginia. And he had a wonderful career being a consultant at McKinsey. And one fine day, he got an email from another student at his alma mater who was about to drop out. He said, look, I'm short $500 with my rent. I cannot pay. I'll have to stop studying. And Manu thought look, okay, I was there 15 years ago. I was struggling with paying my rent. And I've done okay. I'm at McKinsey, engagement manager, have a great career, great perspective. And I could have dropped and lose everything if I was not able to pay this $500. This is not right. I have to do something about it. And he came up to start mPOWER. mPOWER offer no cosigner, no collateral loans for international students who want to study in North America. We focus heavily on postgraduate students, STEM degrees, because we know that someone who's going to be an engineer is going to be successful and will be able to repay back the loan. So all our underwriting process is forward-looking. We look at what is the potential of the students, and we welcome, again, applicants who will be able to come and have new opportunities. And that's how mPOWER was founded. Since then, we had close to 25,000 students who went through this life-changing experience. Over 90% of the students who took an mPOWER loan said that mPOWER has been instrumental in their studying abroad. It's very fulfilling. And today, really, students have, through the years, increased their earning by 75% before and after studying abroad. So it's been really, I think, an element that has helped many students to further their career and personal growth.
You mentioned about, it's been started by, by the way, congratulations to you and the full team, because someone who have started in 2015, still living as an international students, and, so I know the journey, it's very adventurous, to say the least, right? So what happened to, you mentioned it started by 2 international students in 2014, so Eminol or Manu, as we call it. Eminol is one of the founder, or he's a like is the company still bootstrap, have raised funds, or promoters are still there, or it's been now run professionally by a professional CEO?
Yeah.
What is
So
status?
Manu is a very professional CEO.
I'm sure.
He's also the co-founder. So he's been here all the way since 2014, and he still leads the company as a CEO today. You've asked about capital raise. So we did have actually several rounds of equity raise. We also completed 2 securitization. Our latest securitization was for about 330 million. That was just completed last Q2 in a relatively challenging environment for international students, which shows that still a very strong belief in the potential of international students. And for those, I'm sure everybody in your audience know what is a securitization. We do basically, we package loan together and we sell these to capital market. So we had investors including Deutsche Bank, Goldman Sachs, Verde, as well as a number of new investors who basically bought package loans, which allow us to deploy even more capital to more international students.
Why will investor take a package loan? Isn't a liability which you are repackaging it and probably exchanges on trades or trading on exchanges? Tell someone as name as me, who don't understand financing, who don't understand education loan, especially international financing. Why someone will invest and take liability on their books?
So 3 things here. So the first thing is, if you buy a loan, there is always a risk that the loan will default. If you package several loans together, you diversify, you reduce the risk. And this is why we diversify. We package loan together and reduce the risk. Our default rate is very low. We have no cosigner, no collateral, but a very high repayment rates. And the reason is, I think a lot of the students feel like, again, owing to the fact that without mPOWER, they wouldn't have had the chance to go and study abroad. That's one of the reasons. The other reason is our students are successful. So they do have the money and the ability to pay back the loan. And that's why we're still able to provide those no cosigner, no collateral at relatively very good rate. I think our rate of fixed rate, we are starting at 9.99%. So I think that's been really interesting investment for the investor that have joined the securitization. They do believe in the capital and the potential of international students, and buying loan from international students is something that is valued today, and I think will continue to be valued in the future.
You mentioned the default rate is low. You want to mention is it?
We have very, very low default rate, far below the federal credit default rate in the US.
You want to put some numbers to it?
We're below 3% annually, which is a very, very good number in the loan industry. And we
totally agree. Especially if you're saying you're not taking any co-signer collateral, and you're providing to very diverse set of international students, especially who need education loan. Not like, there are some institutions only lend to people who already have access to finance. You are saying you are actually, and I'm taking this on your face value, right? I need to do my numbers research, but on your face value, it seems that you are very true to your name, mPOWER. You're actually empowering students. You are actually empowering diversity, in international education, which is so important. Because I always tell, especially Indian international students, that don't just stick with Nigerians, with Indians, with Chinese. You should. I'm sure you will relate to it in your 20 years of work experience, and as international students, you must be having friends and connects in almost every country. Wherever you go, do you have your dinner alone, or do you have some friend to have?
I love to have the opportunity to meet people everywhere in the world, and whether through personal network, people that I enjoy catching up, or even meeting new people. So I usually like to have my meal with either people across the world that I know, or some new people.
Because I always tell my team and everyone that money, everything is great, right? But my biggest net worth is my biggest network is my network. And wherever I travel, and I travel extensively because the nature of work is like that. We stay out of suitcase, right? We live out of suitcase. I hate to eat alone, and I'm so blessed. Whichever city, whichever country, in India or internationally, you know, I have someone who can I call, and they are very graceful enough to come and grace the occasion and take out their time to have lunch or dinner with me. And that is such blessing, because first you learn a lot, second you have real life connections, third, I can call and say, you need help in Guyana, I have a friend,
That's right.
and you learn so much, right? So again, coming back to empower, is it right the name is like it's empowering international students,
You're absolutely correct.
and you didn't get EMPOWER, so like
We're
empower is money and power and power. It's something
empower.
that story.
That's exactly we are empowering students, so hence the name. And really, we give opportunities that would not have been there without international student loan. I think it's also worth mentioning that we're a certified public benefit company, so it's Corp B in the US, and we have a duty to serve public good. And that's in the statutes, and we are really committed to do things that will benefit the public.
What you mentioned, certified?
Certified Corp B, so it's a public benefit company.
And what are the advantages and
So it means that we have a mandate to actually look at the public benefit. There are certain criteria that we have to meet. We also have certain criteria in terms of transparency, disclosure about what we do and how we do it, and ensuring that we are in line with, again, the benefit of the public.
But don't you think? I mean, isn't that part also make it tougher for you to compete with your peer groups, which are probably smaller? They don't have such accountability or mandate to be as transparent as you guys are, or to tell all your trade secrets about, as you mentioned, you have so openly mentioned that you have default value which is under 3, and they are partners which I know, they are platform which I know, they're like, oh, our default value is less than 5%, less than 0.5%, which can't be true. If you don't have cosigners, you have collaterals, you are lending to diverse set of international students in their jurisdictions. Anyone who's claiming that kind of numbers it's blatant lie, right? But don't you think it give you a bigger superpower? It give you access to grants and financing from governments and support from governments, right? But also, don't you think it's also put you on a more disadvantage when it comes to business to business competitive landscape?
So I think, look, we have a product that is very unique. There are very few companies that provide international student loans in US dollar. And if you compare to India, there are about 15 different lenders, 15 different companies. And I don't need to name the name, but there are a lot of great, by the way, loan companies. And we are among the very rare and the only one who provide US dollar loans. And that gives a certain number of very, very key advantages. First of all, student going to the US doesn't have to be paying Forex, sending back the money every month. They have the ability to then have some employee repayment benefits, meaning once they get a job in the US through the OPT visa program, the employer can actually help them to pay back the loan. They have also some tax benefit. They can have over $5,000 of tax deduction on the interest. So we do have an offering that is quite unique that the Indian lenders do not have. They pay local INR loans that do not open some of the advantage. We also give fixed interest rates. The rates do not change from the time of the loan offering to the end of the loan. The rates don't change. And you often have students...
It sounds so good to be true. You're comparing with... Okay, let's say, before meeting you, before meeting few of my other partners which I haven't spoken about, I always feel why I should take an education loan. What will my friends, my family, my university might feel that I don't have finances and I have taken a loan. So that might put my visa process into question that this guy is getting sponsored. Why should we provide them visa? Because everyone feel that if I'm going abroad, the that country should feel that, and believe that I have enough money to come to their country, and it's been sponsored by, by my family, or by have savings. This is the general perceptions and thought thinking of international student, including for the longest time for me also. Why should I take loan? What my friends, family, if they get to know, my visa might not be, not get through, because they feel, immigration officer feel that, oh, I don't have finances, I'm taking finances and then coming. Will I be able to repay? Will I get a job? And then there's such a high burden of interest payment on me. What if I don't get a job? What if I not able to repay? What if I don't even get my visa? What if I get deported? So there are so many why around education loan. There's so many taboo around taking loans, and you are talking taking loans in US dollar. Hold on here. If I take a loan on US dollar, which is appreciating in Indian rupee, or Indian rupee is depreciating against US dollar. Too much of maths here, for my audience. Why don't you decipher that?
Okay, so there are a lot of points
Yeah,
here.
I am listening mode.
Let me
Listening
see
mode.
point by point.
If you're curious, I am super curious, and I'm
Absolutely.
stupid. So all yours.
No,
Listening.
You're a very bright man, and it's a lot of points here. I can take a few of them, and of course, feel free to let me know. I'm happy to cover a specific item.
Yeah.
But you mentioned benefits of US dollar loan versus rupee loan.
Yeah.
As I said, everybody should take what is suitable for them. There are specific benefits for US dollar loan. So students who are studying for a STEM degree in the US will be granted a 3-year work visa after the completion of the degree. So they can stay and work in the US. And what we see is most of the students...
What visa is this called?
So it's OPT
F1?
visa. So
OPT.
visa, right? So again, STEM degrees, so mathematics, science, engineering, technology, are those fields that grant this OPT visa, which allows students to spend 3 years in the USA. Most of the students would work in the US for 3 years and repay back the loan within that time, making a US dollar salary. That's what most of our students do. Some then after get a wonderful opportunity to continue working in the US, getting sponsored by the company, or they can come back home in India or whatever country and have the benefit of this international experience. Because when you want to come back to India and you want to work for a multinational, having been working abroad for a period of time brings a real edge, and also bring uncommon higher salary, most likely. So the benefits, again, about studying in US and getting increased salary for the next 3 years after studying and then coming back home.
I got lost here.
Yeah?
Why an Indian student take loan in US dollar versus taking loan from Indian bank? How will it benefit them apple to apple?
Yeah, there are a few things. The first thing is you study in the US, so you will not bear any forex charges. You don't have to pay. You don't have to pay this. That's the first point. Second point: working in the US post graduation open the door to potential employee replacement program. So your employer can actually pay back your loan as part of your benefits. So that's free money, literally. And there are also tax benefits.
And why will they do though?
Pardon me?
Why will an employer decide
That's one
retention? It
that's
can be retention employee.
Added benefits for the employee.
Attracting good students and good
Attracting
talent.
the top talent. So a lot of some of the employees, there's a list of companies that give this employee recruitment program. And the last one I have, I mean, it's not the last one, there are other benefits, but the third biggest one is tax. So you can deduct your interest from and the loan repayment from the taxes in the US. So those are items that adds up. And when you have a loan in a certain range in India, let's say 10%, 11% variable loan in India in INR, and you compare to a US dollar loan 12%, 13%, you're actually better off with a US dollar loan because you can add up the tax benefits, the employee repayment, the forex, and the total amount.
Got your point. Help me understand if or correct me if I got it right? So ideally, when I'm going abroad, there can be 2-3 ways to finances. One is savings, one is investment, one is education loan. If I have collaterals in India, I have parents who can help me afford loan, not a bad idea to start taking from India. Once I'm in US and I got a job, then it make all the sense to refinance it and got it loan into US dollar, because if I'm as a student, I'm I'm working there, then I can make the payments in US dollar. Firstly, that probably 8 to 12, 14% loans in India will move to 5 to 6% in US dollar. So a direct advantage to a student there, because they got a job, and that's one of the eligibility for you also. So they can also get access to employer repayment program, and then they can also have tax rebate program. If a student not able to secure a job in US, then any which ways if they will not be eligible for your refinancing loan. They will come back to India and complete their loans in India, right? So this can be one use case, right? The other use case also I'm asking that you also provide loans in India when they are in India without collateral and cosigner. You know, if I compare that use case, do you think then you still have a advantage in chance versus Indian banks or Indian NBFCs?
Look, again, I think every student.
The first use case I got it right.
I think you're fair, and you talk about refinance. I love
Yeah.
that you mentioned that, because mPOWER does refinance Indian rupee loan in the US. So if a student who studied and took a loan in India is in the US, finished his studies and started to work, can come to mPOWER and refinance the loan. We offer a very competitive rate, and again, it helps the student to free up the cosigner and the collateral. So if you
So I
don't-
got it. If a student get a job in US, then
they
only
can
they are eligible for refinance. Then only it will make sense for employer program and tax rebates. But what if their parents have taken a loan on their behalf, or probably they are a co-signer and all? In that case, any which ways, the repayment will be paid by their parents, and they can still claim interest part in their taxation rebate, right? So what I'm saying is, if a student is not getting a job in US and they're coming back, then probably continue with refinancing or continue with their current uh, loan provider, whether it's the Indian banks or NBFC, will make sense. If they're getting a job, then it's a great advantage or great option for them to refinance it through you guys. It beneficial for win-win for all, for you guys, for them. But I'm saying, what about why a student who is going to US, they don't know whether they get a job or not. They have option to go by mPOWER, and they have option to go by, let's say, Kadila and Avance and SBI, right? Then why will they choose you?
So first of all, the loan education loan industry in India is about 9 billion US dollars. So that's a big amount, and mPOWER doesn't have the desire or even the ability to take all and everybody. So I think every student and every family should look at what works best for them. There are some very specific advantages for mPOWER. And I think that if you're a postgraduate student going to study for a STEM degree in the US, and if your goal is to work in the US for 2-3 years post-graduation, mPOWER is a significantly better option than an INR loan. If you plan to study liberal arts, history, and come back to India after your degree, then you might be better off with the Indian rupee loan. So it's really, I think, every student have their own circumstances. They should look at what
And you
best for them.
guys are only doing US at this point, or US and Canada?
We do mPOWER finance loans in the US and Canada. We have 523 universities in these two countries, about 450 in the US, the rest in Canada, and a lot of great program in these universities that we finance.
Oh, so they are empaneled. They're like, you will only finance if they are going to 523,
That is correct, yes.
right? So you're saying you don't have aspiration and capabilities and even interest to finance everyone, because you are very selective, right? If a student going for US or North America, let's say we talk US, they need to be post grad. You're not catering undergrad. They need to be STEM students, so you're not catering to laborers and all. And then only the 523 universities are where you have been approved to extend your loan.
And so,
Yeah.
so we do selectively finance part of undergraduate studies. We also finance other programs in STEM. I think that we are more suitable for students who are doing the postgraduate STEM. That's really the niche we're working with. And I do believe that we are, without a doubt, one of the most competitive options for students going for one of these programs and
Very interesting. Very interesting. So when you say it's a $9 billion Indian education loan, but if I decipher, so you have very clear market, in your mind, So how many Indian students are going in US, if I ask so?
So last year, 2024, there are a little bit less than 200,000 students postgraduate going to the US. I talk about postgraduate because this is really the focus we have. I believe the total number of students from India going to the US is 330,000 approximately. And again, it's the number one nationality going to the US as of last year.
Yeah.
China used to be number one, and India has overtaken China and to be the number one international
So
student
India
population.
taken China two things on a student going abroad in US and also population.
Yeah, that's right.
And now we are keen to take
Double
on
combo.
GDP and growth, but probably we need to work more hard,
That's right.
and more smarter, use more AI and take more finances from you guys so that they can get access to a better education. Right? Back to you. So 200K PG market, out of which how many are going for STEM?
So I don't have the exact number, but STEM is a big part of the
50%?
So it's more than 50%. For Indian postgraduate students, STEM is a very dominant
Significant,
field.
yeah.
And again, the opportunities are significant. Someone who's going to go in engineering, science, technology is very likely to get an opportunity in the US because the US economy needs to have these brands and these people very capable to fuel the growth. And despite you have mentioned in the beginning of the podcast some fear and challenges, there is not a doubt that the US economy will continue to need more and more bright and capable students to fuel the economy. Yes, there will be probably some fear challenges, but I think that overall there is still an opportunity both for the US economy and for international students to grow this wonderful economy that the US is.
I want to go deeper into this, but I will stop here because I was reading a report. Currently, all this hyperinflation is coming because they have 36 trillion debt, which is highest ever. And if they don't either cut down on spending or grow faster, then the locals will have this narrative that why we are getting international students who eat down on their jobs and eat down on their resources. Though there's another school of thought which says that 42 billion US dollar is been getting from international students, out of which 17 billion is coming from India itself, right? Which school of thought you engross? Because nothing is wrong here.
No.
I think from a US local student or a local job seeker, if a smarter or a younger or a more hungrier international student coming in US, someone will lose their jobs, someone will lose their opportunity. At the same time, international university can't survive without international students. That's a fact. How to balance it?
I'll say three things, and again, I love your questions. I think you mentioned 40 billion US
42 billion,
dollar
yeah.
contribution for international students in the US.
Yeah.
This is only tuition.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That
yes.
doesn't include
accommodation. Yes,
exactly.
Another $10,000.
Accommodation, yes, and all the other services that international students contribute to the US economy. So they do come, they spend, and they help the economy to turn.
Yeah.
So this is huge, and quite simply, the US economy, you talked about debt, will really be challenged by not having any international students. And the share of international students in many of the universities help run and subsidize education for American students because they come in and they pay full price out of state tuition. So international students do contribute to the US economy significantly.
It's a backbone. Not even US. No international university in any part of the world can survive without international students. That's a fact. But back to you.
That's right. The second point you have mentioned is maybe I'll mention this second point is the US unemployment rate is below 5%. Many companies cannot fill vacancies, and international students do not take jobs from Americans. They take jobs that very often companies cannot fill with US citizens.
So well put.
And I think if you want to be specific again, the STEM category is one area where there are a lot of vacancies. And this is one key element of competitivity of the US economy and the biggest companies. So Google, Microsoft, just to name a few, hire a lot of international students in this field to help them dominate the world, so to speak. Yeah? So I think that's the second element. I can talk about nursing as well. I mean, look,
we'll go to nursing once, as you mentioned, so we have our own research desk, right? We do lots of primary, secondary surveys, and lots of numbers have been floating, which are probably been picked from our reports and all, right? But I always also believe that numbers are extrapolated the way we want, and it can be, built up the way we the narrative we can, right? So you mentioned US employment rate is less than 5%. Then why are these reports of people getting deported? Why are these reports of there is no employment? Why are these reports that people are not paying repayments? And you are an education loan institution, so you must be either feeling the heat or you must be knowing, no, that's not fact. What are your take? If you can put some numbers, or you can put some anecdotes or any story.
I think there's a lot of negative news, that's true, but I think very much a lot of it is noise. That's the first thing. So all the things that you refer are true, and I think that some difficult things have occurred. There has been, and there will continue to be some bad news, but I do not think that covers really the essential piece about international students. You know that there were about 800 student visas that were revoked in Q1, and it was a global outrage, and say, oh my God. So, but it's just a drop of the international students. There were 1.3 million international students, so 800 was actually not a big number. You talk about statistic, yes, we can turn all the numbers the way we want. 800 looks big, but that was not a big number in the number of international students. That's number one. And number two, all these were reinstated. So of course, it's not pleasant as an international student to be told you have to go, but all of them actually got back the student visa and went back to school. So look, I think just like the weather, international studying is made of cycle. I think probably the cycle and a lot of fear, but in French we say after the rain comes the sun. And I think that those people who are here for the long run, and international education is for the long run.
Long term.
You're not looking at going to the US, I want to be 2 years in the US. You're looking at what impact it will have on your life, because it will have a long-standing impact on your life, and make the decision accordingly. And I think that, of course, the news is an important element, but I think students, parents should look at really what are the long-term goals and make decision accordingly.
No, so true. I can't agree, more than on this point, that if you're going abroad, or if education can be one of the best, or not even can, it's one of the best and the biggest investment one can make in their life cycle. And Indians and international students still, especially Indians, are so blessed that parents support education. They don't mind. I mean, they know they've been saving. I have a young daughter. I have started saving when she got born. And it's as simple as probably $150 a month. Over 18 years, it will be a corpus which will either finance her education, or she gonna start a startup, or she get married. All three choice, whatever your choice. As a parents, we can do this, right? And it's not very tough to sponsor even the costliest education, MITs or Harvards or Regents or Hult, right? But start early. This is for parents. And if you're a student, don't just go abroad, especially in US, that there will be red carpets. Probably there will be no carpets, right? But it's worth it totally. But you are going for the right reasons, you need to. If you are not going for the right reason, you're only going for because you have friends or your girlfriends or someone in your family have went, don't do that, because it's costly, but it's worth it, and be prepared. Start early. Right? So these are a few things which I keep telling to my students.
Absolutely. So first of all, kudos for saving for your daughter. I love the idea. I have myself a 3-month-old son. joy of my
Congratulations.
life. I'm also
Congratulations.
saving for his education right now. So I think he'll have a nice budget to start with when he's 18. But I hope that he'll use the money for somewhere else, for something else, and that he can be self-sufficient and maybe take a loan or whatever he wants.
You mentioned perceived challenges, and you want to hear one more thing. In fact, I would say, if you really want to do well in your life, don't take risks, take calculated risks, and another thing is, I would be, let's say, 18 or 19 again, I would not leave this opportunity again, because now you are getting the chance to study in best of universities with less competition. You're not
right.
studying with people who are just going for heck of it. They're serious. So don't miss that chance. What's your take on accommodation? Because you've been international students. I'm sure you have stayed in many, places. Good, bad, uglies, or ugly, right? What do you see? How important is accommodation in international student journey?
Having a roof is key and fundamental. It's the base of the Maslow pyramid. You need to cover and have a roof. And I'll say you one thing: decide early and choose early. And having the opportunity to work with organizations like University Living and there are many others is a great opportunity to get a head start and prepare earlier. The last thing you want to do is to show up out of the airport and say, where I'm going to stay tonight. I'm sure you have a lot of
Every day.
experiences and
Every
people
day.
who face challenges. But I think me having, again, been an international student, being in the right place where I feel good has been paramount.
Any three things you want to tell to your to our students, to your audience, or anything, because today's now is a era of reels. Do three things, do five things. So I want, this is your chance to go viral on University Living, living podcast. What are those three things you want to wrap this up?
Okay. So I think if I want to start, I will quote a very simple sentence. It's like, fortune favors the brave. So be brave, take risk, and they will be rewarded. I think the second point I want to say is I want to reiterate again the benefits of going abroad. And it's not for everybody, and you can be very successful staying at home. But my own experience is that international study is a wonderful experience, fulfilling personally and professionally. And the last point, I'll just talk about mPOWER. mPOWER is I believe, one of the best offer in the market for students who are going to do their postgraduate STEM degrees in the US and who plan to stay for a couple of years to work in the US with OPT. So do your research. Look at it might or might not be the best for you, but if you believe that you're a postgraduate student going for a STEM degree in one of partner university, I really think that you should look at more details about mPOWER financing. And I hope to see you in the US next year, having the time of your life and developing in this wonderful place, and probably as well staying in one of the University Living accommodation.
Thank you. Thank for that plug. But guys, this has not been sponsored by mPOWER yet. But what I like about you and what I learned from this session is, take risks, and just go with the flow. Do your bit, because that's in your hand. You can't control external factors. So continue your journey. And on that note, thank you, Clement, so much for doing this. For your so candid and so logical and rational reasons you have shared, of studying abroad, why it's important to seek education loan, especially in US dollar. Refinancing was something which I learned. I had a very superficial pseudo understanding of that, so thank you for that. And on that note, guys, thank you so much. And as I always say, please do share suggestions, comments, anything, everything, and also just comment what kind of guests you want us to bring on this show. Though I hate it to ask to like, subscribe, share, but my team loves it. They push me that if you don't do it, if you don't increase your subscriber, this is how it works. The more subscriber, the better guest. The better guest, the better content. The better content, it's a vicious cycle. So for that fact, if any you have liked even 2 minutes, a full podcast or any of the podcast we have done, share it, save it, and just continue to support us. And thank you so much.